She hit the deck before the world even realized it was gone. Boom metal screaming, fire snapping like pissed-off snakes, water hissing through the hull like it had teeth. Sparks were raining down, twisting the shadows into some kind of hellish ballet, and she was crawling, scraping, hauling herself through a corridor that smelled like burnt oil and fear. Every alarm was screaming, every deck was bending, every poor bastard around her was frozen in some half-dead panic, but not her. Nah, she was silent, limping through the chaos, blood running into her eye, hair plastered to her face, still moving like she owned every twisted inch of that sinking coffin. The sub shuddered like it was gonna crack open and swallow them all, and somewhere deep in her chest, her heart was hammering, but her head was ice cold. She checked the wires, the gauges, the bleeding walls. Nobody else had the balls to touch the heart of the mess. They were quaking, but she wasn't just surviving. She was hunting a way out. By the time she hit the main corridor, the place looked like someone had dropped it in a meat grinder. Smoke choked the lights, and the shadows were alive, crawling over busted consoles and twisted steel. She glanced back to guys pinned under a bulkhead, screaming, water creeping up to their knees, and she didn't hesitate. Grabbing a busted pipe, she wedged it under the beam, yanking like a madwoman, hauling the first one free, dragging him into the flickering safety of partial darkness. She didn't speak, didn't breathe loud, just moved, calculated, a ghost in the chaos. The sub's engines coughed, sparks showered from busted panels, and somewhere far below, the hull groaned like it wanted to swallow them all. She limped through the smoke, catching every weak point, assessing every breach, knowing time wasn't just short, it was gone. Somewhere in the back of her head, memories flickered. Boot camp nightmares, midnight drills under rain, fires she'd fought through before. It all came back, not as fear, but as a damn weapon. Every scar, every bruise, every lesson learned was loading her up for the fight she hadn't asked for but had been training her whole life to survive. And she wasn't just surviving, she was about to run that sinking coffin herself, pick it up by the guts, and make sure everyone who dared be stupid enough to get trapped in it got out alive. The first hit came like a bastard punch you never saw coming. Water was surging through the starboard corridor, screaming past her boots, taking chunks of metal and sparks with it. She rolled under a falling pipe, teeth gritted, pulling herself up on twisted railings while alarms screamed in her ears like a pack of rabid dogs. Behind her, the crew was losing their minds, shoving and screaming, but she didn't flinch. Her hands were raw, bleeding from metal cuts, but she yanked a jammed hatch like it was nothing, tossing it aside with a grunt. Somewhere down the hall, a fire was eating through the wiring. She grabbed an extinguisher, hand blasted it into the flames, the hiss of foam over fire echoing like a shotgun. Every breath tasted of burnt oil and fear, but she kept moving, eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. She found a trapped sonar tech, pale as death, cursing and panicking. No time for pep talk, she wedged a beam, dragged the guy out, shoved him toward a safe compartment, and snapped, "Move or drown." The guy stumbled like a zombie, but he followed. She glanced at the gauge's oxygen dropping, pressure building, and smirked grimly. Just another Tuesday. Every step was a gamble, every second a fight, and she thrived in it. The second surge was worse. The sub tilted, throwing her sideways into the bulkhead, knocking the wind out of her lungs, but she landed on her feet, boots scraping over wet metal. She crawled through a twisting pipe crawl space, black water slapping her face, her hands bruised and aching from grip on the slick steel. The engine room was a nightmare. A fireball had eaten the main console, sparks raining, hydraulics hissing, and the remaining techs staring like deer in headlights. She didn't waste a second. Her hands worked on circuits like a surgeon, twisting wires, rerouting power, cutting sparks before they could ignite the whole section. Flashback hit her midnight drills in pitch-black tanks, instructors screaming, fires crawling up walls, drowning exercises. All of it drilled into her muscle memory. She yanked a scorched panel off, jammed a spare battery in, and the emergency lights flickered back on. The crew muttered curses of awe. She didn't even nod. Eyes scanning, she shoved past debris, ripped a pipe loose, jacked a broken compressor to refill oxygen lines. Every move, calculated chaos. The sub groaned around her, threatening collapse, but she smiled grimly. "Come on, you ugly bastard," she muttered and kept moving. Third wave hit like hell. Hull shuddered violently, knocking her against a bulkhead, leaving a cut across her cheek. Water was chest deep now, corridors flooded, visibility gone. She hauled herself along ropes, twisted ladders, and broken conduits, finding crew members cowering, eyes wide with terror. One kid was screaming, trapped under a fallen panel. She didn't pause. With a grunt, she levited, sweat and blood mixing, dragging him out. Another flashback, her first sub-deployment, a drill gone wrong, suffocating in darkness, thinking she'd die. That fear had burned out, leaving nothing but pure instinct. She checked oxygen barely enough, hull creaking, fire in the aft engine. She ripped a fire extinguisher from a bracket, launching it into the flames, hissing, choking, steel screaming around her. Sparks and smoke filled every inch, visibility gone. But she could hear the faint cries, the intercom sputtering, the hum of dying machinery. Her fingers flew over panels, rerouting, improvising, making life or death choices in fractions of seconds. One wrong move, they all drowned. She whispered curses at the sub, at the sea, at fate itself, but kept moving. Every flash, every noise, every groan of steel around her fueled her. She wasn't just surviving, she was hunting the life out of the sinking coffin, making it spit out every soul it tried to bury. Fourth surge, the final choke. The aft compartment was gone flooded, twisted metal like a graveyard. She slammed through, boots skidding, hauling a crewman over twisted rebar. Sparks showered, hull moaning like it had a mouth, water rushing in like it wanted her dead. She found the last trapped tech, a pale man shaking, clutching wires that could fry him alive. No hesitation. She ripped the console apart with one hand, yanking him free, shoving him toward the surface hatch. Oxygen alarm screamed. Hull groaned. Time was nothing. She glanced back, corridor collapsing. "Move," she barked. She dragged herself over a fallen beam, water waist high, sparks popping around her, and felt the sub tilt violently. Flashback her training, her first mission, a fire, a flood, a death, everything condensed into this single moment. And she pushed, pulled, clawed, dragging the last man through chaos, through fire, through death. They hit the hatch. She slammed it open, hauled the guy onto the deck as the sub creaked behind them, battered, hissing, alive. Her chest heaving, body screaming, she turned back one last time, every eye on her, every mouth open in disbelief. And she just smiled, grim and bloody, knowing she'd ripped death a new one and survived it. The surface hit like a whisper after hell cold, salt's lick, and almost unreal. The sun was clawing its way up the horizon, streaking the sky with pale fire, and the sub sat behind them like a wounded beast, hissing steam and groaning metal. She hauled herself up onto the deck, every muscle screaming, every cut and bruise burning, but she didn't slow down. Around her, the crew was staring, wide-eyed, mouths open, faces pale and salt-streaked. Some were crying, some were shaking, and all of them were alive because she didn't flinch, didn't panic, didn't hesitate when the world tried to crush them. She sank to one knee, chest heaving, eyes scanning the horizon, the remnants of the ocean swallowing the sun. No words, just a ragged breath and the weight of everything they'd been through pressing down like a steel plate. A few murmurs of thanks, but she ignored them. Heroes didn't need applause, they needed results, and she'd gotten them all out. Then she heard a faint creak from the sub, a low groan that whispered of secrets still trapped inside. She froze, heart hammering. Something wasn't right. Her eyes narrowed. She knew the beast wasn't done, and neither was the danger. Maybe it was the hull. Maybe it was the water. Maybe it was something darker, something nobody else could see yet. She clenched her fists, blood dripping from scratches, grit in her hair, smoke and salt in her lungs. She smiled, grim, broken, but unbowed. "You tried," she muttered under her breath, voice low, raw, deadly. "You tried, and you lost." The camera lingers, her silhouette framed against the battered sub, dawn bleeding over the waves. The crew gathers behind her, shadows of relief and fear dancing together. And then, just before the frame cuts to black, a single metallic groan echoes from deep inside the sub, slow, deliberate, like it's laughing. She hears it. We hear it. And the silence afterward isn't peace. It's a promise. Whatever darkness lies beneath the waves, she's coming for it next.